when you don't think it can get worse for the Cowboys, it somehow does. Dak Prescott getting injured against the New York Giants in the third quarter. Under successful surgery last night for a compound ankle fracture and dislocation. And they were successfully able to repair it. And for people that don't understand what a compound fracture is, it's where the bone goes through the skin. Which, when you see Dak hit the ground, his ankle when he's still running, is twisting. So it was already dislocating. But when he hits the ground, is where it just starts going. It just starts to go haywire. He looks. He tries to pick up his leg. He actually bangs his leg against the turf to try and get it back into place. When he realized that's not going to happen, he's confused of what happened to his leg. And Logan Ryan, the cornerback that tackled him, went and told the Cowboys, "Hey, get over here. Something's wrong with Dak. He's injured. He can't get up." And they end up rushing over there, and they see his ankle and his foot, his right ankle and his foot are pointing the opposite direction. It's pointing outward to his right. And he's trying to put it back into place, and he was in obviously severe pain. But for people that don't understand what kind of a leader Dak is, when Dak is on the ground, not just do his coaches go and see him, all the players on the Cowboys and a lot of the players on the Giants went to go look. Even his former coach, Jason Garrett, went and actually was consoling Mike McCarthy, gave him a big hug, because as a first-year head coach for this new team, everything that had happened before, it had been against them. They'd not been good in the second and third quarter, and now they lose their quarterback for most likely this rest of the year, and it's just so much to take in, especially how many injuries they've had already. But everyone went to go see that, and you can actually see Jerry Jones, even with his mask on, was severely saddened and angered, because he knew that he's not going to have Dak for the rest of the year. And that's a huge step back. Because as much as Andy Dalton is a 10-year veteran, made the playoffs many times, he does not give you the threat with his legs like Dak does. With Dak, when he runs, he's an aggressive runner. He uses his mobility to his advantage, and it's hard to stop him. With Andy Dalton, there's no threat of that. And it just adds more and more to what the Cowboys have to deal with. But as I was saying, when he was getting put on to the coat, everyone went to go see him. Everyone went to go talk to him. And I can remember of what Tony Romo said. He said everyone went to see this kid, and was you could obviously see in his face of how he was crying, because he was in so much pain, and he was crying because he knew his season is probably over. And he was, I guess he felt useless, and Dak has been going through so much this year, in losing his brother to a suicide, losing his mother a few years ago, and going through the depression after losing his brother. That's just so much to take in, and he got so much criticism for saying about what his depression, of what he was feeling, and now this happens. You can't wish this on any person, even if it's your enemy. You can't. Dak was playing extremely hard. He's always been a very aggressive player, but he's always been a leader. And people, when you see the post-game interview with Zeke Elliott and with Mike McCarthy, you see just how much Zeke was almost fully crying on the podium, and Mike McCarthy was. You could just see it raining in him. That it was just such a hard thing. And when you saw Mike McCarthy said about Dak was he made a believer out of Mike McCarthy. I mean, when you see this kid 5 years ago, you think, this kid, he's not what you really want in a quarterback because you don't know if he can really do any of it. And then when you see him in that first preseason game in the LA Coliseum, actually against the Rams, he made some exceptional throws for a guy that was a 4th-round pick, and you could just see it. He made a believer of so many people. But that's not why I just made this video. It's just not just talk about this. It was to talk about how people were going to always say that Dak did not sign a long-term agreement to stay on the Cowboys, and that it's Jerry Jones' fault that this happened, which is not true. And for the people that say that, that's a bit, not just inaccurate, it's also very shameful to say that. Because you can't say that Jerry knew this was going to happen. You can't. And it's not like they didn't have a contract on the table, he just didn't sign it because he thought he could be worth more. Which, you have to understand that. He thought he was worth more than what he was getting. It's plain and simple. When people say, well, it's now he's not going to get his money. Now Jerry Jones is in the... Now you got to blame Jerry Jones. Now you got to do these things. You don't have to do that. Because I don't think Jerry Jones knew this. No one knew this was going to happen. Jerry Jones not know, but no one knew. And the fact that this happened hurts. It obviously hurts. I was saying last night to my family of just how much this hurt, how much this pain hurt. I felt it. Even though I'm a Cowboys fan, I saw people tweeting out Patrick Mahomes, Troy Aikman, Tony Dorsett, even Dirk Nowitzki was tweeting out prayers and just a lot of support towards him. Troy Aikman was saying that he was one of the best people he's ever seen in terms of his leadership, in terms of how people respect him. Patrick Peterson was one of the surprising ones. I didn't think he was ever going to talk about it. And he did. And his was very powerful. And it just explains on how much, as much as these guys are players on separate teams, they're also brothers. Because they do this for the enjoyment. This is just the downside of the game. But for people to go and say, oh, it's Jerry Jones' fault. Oh, it's Dak Prescott's fault. He shouldn't have done that. You don't understand. No one knew this was going to happen. I saw in a few YouTubers that I watch on a pretty regular basis. One of them was a fan, yes. But I'm happy the Cowboys won this for Dak. And my focus changed from the beginning. I wanted us to just win to be on top of the NFC. And when it happened, my focus shifted, and it went from, now I want the Cowboys to be the top of the division. It shifted to, we need to win this game for Dak. Dak put so much of his team effort and so much of his effort to bring the team back constantly. And he's done it at a consistent level. And he's going to be duly missed. I remember I watched Mike Nolan talk about it, and Mike Nolan he went to his players and said, if Dak was here, he would be on you guys so we can get back into this game. We got to do this. I need every bit of heart and soul you got to win this game. And the Cowboys did win. But for people to go and say that it's only because he needed the money, it's only because he thought he could bet on himself again, you don't understand. And you need to be quiet. It's not the money. He was doing this, and everyone talks about how good of a team player he is and how much of a leader he is. And we saw it, him going on the court. All the Cowboys players went, all the coaches went to go talk to him. And even though when he saw that distraught look on his face, even Jason Garrett, his former coach who drafted him, went to talk to him. And after the game, you see Jason Garrett hugging Ezekiel Elliott. And it was just such a big thing. We just hope that gets better soon and quickly. And Dak, our prayers are with you.